So Mark hosed me bad in this fight in Steubenville, Ohio. Okay? I fought this D2 National Wrestling champion. I can't remember his name. He's got a brother. They fought too. Luke, and his brother's name was Luke, but I can't remember the guy's name I fought. But I fought this dude, and I got him in a triangle, and he wasn't tapping, but it was like I had it. You know what I mean? Like he was going to tap, and I was putting everything I had into this triangle because I was losing the fight, and I finally got him in this triangle, and I was like, it's either this triangle or nothing. So I squeezed with everything I fucking had. He was going to go out, I promise you. I know for a fact I had it. I'm good at jiu-jitsu, and I know I had that choke. It might have just been a little off, which why it was taking me a little longer to tap him, but believe me, I knew he was going to go out. And this motherfucker, Mark Matheny, fucking broke it up and restarted us standing up. You aren't supposed to do that. You can't do that. You can't do that when someone has someone in a fucking submission. He argued with me afterwards about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, I'm MF that motherfucker. And I lost the fight. So I had a problem with this dude ever since that happened because he hosed me, and I hold grudges. So then I got a job reffing and judging for the athletic commission, and they had Herb Dean come in and do a reffing seminar. So I was invited to that, so I took that, and I ended up getting paired up or sitting close to Mark Matheny, and me and him started talking. I'm like, dude, you fucking hosed me. He's like, no, I didn't, blah, blah. I'm like, bull fucking shit. You fucking hosed me that day. He's like, let's ask Herb. He brings Herb Dean over and tells Herb Dean the situation. And Herb Dean told him he shouldn't have fucking did that. And Mark apologized to me, and, you know, we made up. And after that, he ended up being a super good ref. But actually, before that reffing seminar, I fought in this show. Fuck, I wish I could remember it because it was a pretty popular show. I was always like, every promoter had my number on speed dial because I would take a fight on an hour's notice. As long as I could be there and drive there, if you give me enough time to drive there, I'll be there to fight. So there was a guy that bailed the fight and was going to fight Brandon Gardner. And Brandon Gardner was on the Ultimate Fighter reality show at one point in time, too. He's a really tough dude. And they were looking for someone to cover for him. So I got a call, and I'm like, yeah, I'll fight him. So I show up, and I'm at the rules meeting, and Mark Matheny does not know that I'm there. So he's doing this rules meeting, and he's talking about this fucking fight where he stood me up in the triangle, and he's trying to say, oh, this freaking kid, he didn't say my name in front of everyone, but he was talking about that fight. He's talking about, oh, this guy thinks he knows jiu-jitsu. I know jiu-jitsu. That's what Mark is saying. He's like, I know jiu-jitsu, and I will stand you up if I don't think you have something, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's talking shit on me. And I'm like, oh, no, motherfucker. So I sit up. I'm like, hey, Mark, I'm right here, dude. And it is like, if you want an unscheduled bout in the ring, me and you can fight in that fucking cage. I was like, I'll beat your fucking ass. So I was like, all these fighters are at this rule meeting, and I'm standing up motherfucking Mark Matheny at the rules meeting telling him I'm going to beat his ass, and me and him can get in the cage and fight, and he's a fucking cocksucking piece of shit for stopping that fight, and he's wrong. Shit was hitting the fucking fan. So it calmed down or whatever, and then later on, Bernie Perfato, he's the head athletic commissioner of Ohio. He found me, and he reamed me out for talking to Mark like that and disrespecting him at the rules meeting and telling me that if I ever do that again, I'll never fight ever again, blah, blah, blah. So he cussed me out, and he was super mad at me. But then we came to that rules meeting, and that Herb Dean thing, and Herb told him I was wrong, and me and Mark made up, and he ended up, I would prefer him to ref all my fights after that happened because he finally got his shit together and became a super good ref. So he is reffing my last fight, and I have a talk with him. Hey, look, I take a lot of punishment. My style was like, I'm gonna wear him out. Like take punches. They set up submissions and shit like that. I'm like, so please, if you think I'm hurt, don't stop it. Talk to me. I will talk to you. I can get punched in the head and have a conversation with somebody. Like, punches just don't affect me. I was like, please don't stop it. He's like, all right, I won't. This was the one time I probably wish he did stop it, because I took about 130 elbows to the I can't remember if it was this. I think it was this side. I took about 130 elbows to that eye. I got my orbital bone broke in the first round, and I fought the distance. I went the distance with this guy, and my orbital bone was broke. I almost lost my eye. It was broke underneath, on the side, and on the top. So the whole eye socket was shattered. During for sure the third round, I think even the second round, like literally there was 3 people. Like when I looked at my opponent, I could see 3 people. And I'm not talking about, like, I know how, like, you say, oh, I see double, and like one person's solid and the other person is kind of fading, you can see through them. I really saw 3 solid people when I looked at this dude. Mark stopped the fight for the doctor to look at me a couple times, and the doctor came over to look. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Really, I'm not fine. I'm hurting like a motherfucker, but I don't quit. And I'm like, I'm fine. And the doctor's like, I'm going to hold up some fingers. Tell me how many I'm holding. And thank God, this was where George was super smart. George Gurgel was working my corner. He had his hand on the back, on my neck. And if the doctor held 3 fingers up, he tapped my head 3 times. George knew I was fucked up. He knew I couldn't fucking see. So then he tapped 3 times, I would say 3. Then they would hold 4. George would tap my head 4 times, I would say 4. They'd hold up 1, he'd tap my head once. Thank God George did that. George is fucking awesome in the corner, because if he didn't do that, they would have stopped the fight, because I would not have been able to answer those questions. I really could not see how many fingers were held in front of me. And when I looked at the guy fighting, I literally saw 3. So when we were standing up and they said go, I just kept my guard up, and I got to where I felt I was close, and I just ducked and I just shot in for the middle person, and I missed every single time, but then I would just stay kind of curled up on the ground and let the guy get on top of me, so then I could feel him, so I knew where he was at, and that was the only way I could finish that fight. But I finished that fight. They sent me to the hospital. I went to the Ohio State University Hospital. They told me that I had this orbital fracture. They literally said if you would blow your nose, sneeze or blow your nose, your eyeball would fly out and be on the floor. So, I had to go back. I had to go to like the ear, nose, and throat doctors, and they did X-rays, and they seemed to think everything was fine. It still kind of shakes every now and then. Like it feels like it, like I don't know, it moves funny every now and then. So I'm sure it's a little bit fucked up. But I didn't lose my eye, and I almost lost my eye that day. That was a pretty memorable time for fighting, but that was my last fight.